Imagine you met somebody in a crowd and think it's just accidental, or it just casually happened, or you may not even think about it. But what if it is decided by something that you are unaware of? Whatever you do with your body, mind, or energy leaves a certain imprint. These imprints configure themselves into tendencies. These tendencies have been traditionally described in India by a wonderfully apt word called Vasana. In the end, Sadhguru shares one simple sadhana to become aware of your Vasana. So stay tuned till the end. Vasana literally means smell. This smell is generated by a vast accumulation of impressions caused by your physical, mental, emotional, and energy actions. Depending upon the type of smell you emit, you attract certain kinds of life situations to yourself. Take, for example, a flower has a certain kind of vasana. It is this fragrance that draws certain kinds of life to it. It cannot move and it has no volition, but because of its fragrance, it may be chosen for worship in a temple sanctum. And it is not so different for human beings. Here you need to understand the word smell does not imply an order. There is no valued judgment attached to the word. It simply means that if you exude a particular kind of vasana, existence will ensure you will end up in a certain places at a certain times. If you exude another type of vasana, existence will make sure you will end up in certain other places. So what moves towards you and also what moves away from you are determined by the smell that emanates from you. And of course, your vasana depends entirely on the kind of residual memory or karmic content you carry. This works in the subtle ways. You may not be aware of it, but in wakefulness and sleep, you are performing karma. A simple thought pattern could make you function in a specific ways. If you keep thinking about the movies or a particular movie star, for instance, you are very likely to see a particular person in a crowd who shares your passion. You might miss the others, those who love books or meditation or something else. If you see 1,000 faces before you, your vasana is likely to draw towards someone who is similarly inclined. Sadhguru shares one interesting story that had happened when he was a teenager. If you don't know this, Sadhguru used to catch snakes since from his childhood, and he had a reputation of catching snakes. If a snake was seen anywhere in the town, people would call him to catch it. So one day he caught a huge 12-foot long cobra in a local tubelight factory, and he hid it under his bed in a large glass container. Somehow one day it managed to escape. When his father heard a loud hiss sound from his room, and when he saw the cobra in Sadhguru's room, he absolutely freaked out and ran out of the room. When I entered this scene, everyone at home was literally standing on chairs and sofas. On the other hand, I ran into the room to protect my snake, anxious that my companion would be thrown out. Here, my parents' vasana produced aversion, my vasana produced attraction. What provoked terror for my parents and others produced a very different response in me. I have never felt any aversion to snakes. My sense of kinship with them is an ancient vasana that I carry. I have always been comfortable around these exotic creatures. Ever since childhood, I have been able to intuitively track their presence in the wild. If I simply followed my sense of smell, I would know exactly under which rock the snake would be found. There are many reasons for his attraction to snakes that Sadhguru shares. The connection between yogis and snakes is an old one. Both exude a vasana that draws them to each other. The snake is an incredibly perceptive creature and is instinctively drawn to higher levels of energy. This is why Adi Yogi, the Shiva, the first yogi, is always depicted in traditional iconography with a snake around his throat. In the early days of my work as a guru, when I wanted to consecrate the Dhyanalinga, I needed to draw very fierce and intense disciples around me to assist with this project. Now that this mission is complete, I have altered my vasana completely, because the need for that kind of concentrated energy work is over. I am probably unrecognizable to people who knew me then, because I am a different person. Depending on the nature of the work, I adjust the tone of my vasana. This may be puzzling to some, but this is the way every spiritual master operates. Sadhguru says it is possible for each individual to choose not to be a victim of their vasana to a great extent. All it takes is a certain awareness. With a little awareness, every human being can transform habit into choice, compulsion into consciousness. It is important to see that whatever seems determined in your life has been determined by you unconsciously. You have written your own software. Depending on the way you have written your software, that is the way you think, that is the way you feel, that is the way you act, and that is what you invite into your life. Depending on kind of fragrance you emit, you attract life situations. Some people seem to constantly attract pleasant situations, others seem to constantly attract unpleasant ones. Or perhaps you see this in different phases in your life. In some phases, wonderful things seem to keep happening. In others, adverse circumstances keep recurring. Now, this simply depends on what you have in your karmic reservoir. Today you have rotten fish, so you attract some terrible situations. Tomorrow you have flowers, so you attract better situations. The simple way to become aware of your Vasana is to try to stay away for a length of time from that which you like, long for, love, or consider to be most precious. The intensity of the pangs you go through when you stay away tells you something about the nature and depth of your Vasana. Now that you have identified your Vasana, you can start working on transformation. If you think your entanglement is related to food, wait a few moments before you have a meal. If you are eagerly awaiting the arrival of a loved one, consciously wait a few moments longer before you meet them. Depending on how deeply entangled you think you are, wait consciously for a few more moments before you engage in that activity or interaction. You will see that your experience of food or love or life generally becomes that much more profound. Gradually, the 2 minutes of waiting for a meal could be extended for 2 hours or for an entire day. This deceptively simple exercise can mark the beginning of a tremendous inner shift. Consciousness is not a matter of behavior, it is the nature of existence. Compulsiveness, however, is behavioral. The moment you wait before you engage in a compulsion, you are aligning yourself with the conscious nature of existence. Over time, this helps weaken the compulsive nature of your behavior.